So we'll keep this fairly short. I like to use these fifth Sundays, provided it's not New Year's Eve or something, to kind of give people a chance to catch up with some of the bigger stories that are happening around the place. So what we're going to do is, this will give you a sense, I'll just speak briefly about the Kairos prison ministry thing. That was a segment that Frances was going to do, but when she rang in to say she's sick, I got a few details from her. Then we'll look at parish finances, because we're just at that time of the year where we've switched to a new set of envelopes, and it's almost, well, it is June 30 today, although our data will only be till May, to the end of May, but nonetheless it is June 30. We'll give a chance to a quick update with what's happening with children, families and youth ministry, because that's something new in the life of the parish and really exciting. We'll just a very brief heads up about some of the things to do with Compassion at Grafton. Sorry, I've obviously flicked the wrong thing here. And then an update from Camellia on Heritage Project. And we'll try and get through all of that in about 45 minutes so we can enjoy Alan's sausage rolls and little thingos. All right. So they're already in the oven, is that right? Or you'll manage that? I don't need to worry about that. It's all taken care of. Okay. So the Kairos ministry thing, as you know, Grafton has a jail. In fact, it's got 3.5 jails, I think. There's the famous one. And then there are 2 smaller specialist detention centres. And of course, there's a giant one being built on the other side of the river, which I believe is going to be the biggest one in the country. That's a whole dynamic in its own. In the case of the existing Grafton jail, there's a ecumenical program called Kairos Prison Ministry Australia. Kairos is actually a Greek word meaning time, but not TikTok time. It means time of blessing. It's more like season, okay, or opportunity. So this is an ecumenical ministry. The Grafton one apparently is led by Francis Legg from Ballina Parish, and they're coming down on. It'll be from Monday to Thursday, but they need to be here Sunday afternoon, and they'll be only leaving on the Friday morning. So we're looking for people that can offer them help with accommodation as billets. It's 1 couple, but in total 20 people. And because of the morning traffic jam, getting over the bridge, they would prefer for the billets to be on this side of the river, or this side of the bridge, rather than the other side. Okay, so we'll put in some more details. A couple of months away yet, but obviously Frances is really keen to get that bedded down, so to speak. So she'll look for another. Oh no, thank you. She'll look for another. It's a dad joke, really. She'll look for another time, and she might be able to come down and talk with us. Let's talk about money, how the parish finances are going. Give you an update on that stuff. So we've got data to the end of May. Obviously, tomorrow morning there'll be the counting bees will be in the office, and they'll count the money from this morning, and then we will have the figures to the end of June for the 6 months. But let's see how things are looking to the end of May. So cash offerings, if you just take the budget for the year and bring it back pro rata to 5 months, 21 weeks out of 52, our budget was almost 11,000, and we've up to the end of May, and we had received just under 10,000. That of course includes January, which is always a lower month, and as the numbers go on through the year, we tend to get better towards the end of the year. But that's just where we are at the moment. So cash offerings are about $1,000 behind budget, but that's just chopping up the 52 weeks. It's not a budget that reflects what we know of the ups and downs. Envelopes, again, it's about $1,000, $1,500 below budget. You can do the quick calculations, Alex, but by the end of May, we would have expected to have about 24,000 in, and we've got just over 22,000 in. So, but by the end of June, that might have evened out. I mean, This just happens to be a point in time. Okay? Because again, some people were away, some people are back, so as things go up and down, that's where we're travelling. Okay? So total offerings, this is just income from offerings. We'll talk about op shop and things in a moment. So we would have been expecting around 35,000. We've got 32,000. So we're about 2,700 odd behind budget at this stage. That's not a problem. I mean, I think 3 or 4 weeks ago we were reporting we were ahead of budget. It's just these things go up and down almost week for week. Not that we have anybody who's giving $2,000 a week, but I mean, you get that variation just depending on when you happen to say, tell me the number now kind of thing. Okay? Oh, and for the whole year, our budget is 80,700, whereas last year, this number is giving us the budget from what we actually got last year, I think. Okay, so we've budgeted. I'll come back to this number in a minute. So, all right. So if we look at it over the last 5 years, because that's what can fit on a screen, and it's also what I happen to have access to. Okay, because of annual reports that I happen to be able to find copies of. So 2000, well, a whole lot. Okay, 2015. This is just offerings, not money from weddings or funerals or op shops or anything else. So in 2015, the income from offerings was 86,000 something. Then it was 87,000 roughly, 84,000 in 2016, 72,000 in 2017. Last year it built up to about 78,000, and this year Roger bravely set the budget, and we all agreed at the annual meeting with his recommendation to set the budget at basically 81,000. Which is how we get the $32,000 for the first 5 months. Okay, so that's kind of the top level, big picture level. Okay, and of course that's just saying. So we're, as we know, 2,700 behind. Even if we fulfil our budget this year, we're still $6,000 or $7,000 worse off than we were 5 years ago on the income side. But of course, our costs have not gone up in those 5 years, right? Everything has stayed the same or gone down. So you can see what's happening. The parish has had a historical decline. We've had a bit of recovery the last year or so, and we're hoping that'll continue. But you can see the crunch. Even, I mean, and I don't have the numbers further back, but even if we achieve our budget this year, we're still 5,000 or 6,000, which is about $100 a week worse off than we were in terms of income than we were just 4 or 5 years ago.
Does that include donations?
No, this is just offerings. It's just the offering line.
Right, thank you.
Okay. Yep. So there are other types of income, which I'm going to show you in a second. Yep. So those who like pictures, that's the same numbers turned into a graph from Excel. So you can see the offerings that have gone down and they've started to build up. Yep. But to get back to where we were, we're going to need some growth of one sort or another. So if we have roughly 100 communicants every week, because we get about 60 at the cathedral. On Sunday we typically get around 20 on a Wednesday, and between Lawrence and the nursing homes, there's at least another sort of 20. There's normally 15 to 20 at Lawrence. Obviously it's a Copmanhurst week, it's 3. Okay. So, but on average, if we wrap in the nursing home visits and so on, we have about 100 communicants a week. Okay, so that's easy. We can all work with decimals, right? So if we get an annual budget of $8,693, that makes $1,550 a week, which makes $15.52 as the average gift. Now, it's not that we get a whole lot of $15.52 put into the plate. We're just saying that's just how the numbers crunch out. Okay? Remember what I said this morning? The widow's bite, 2 little tiny copper coins were more precious to Jesus than a bag of gold. Okay? Mind you, he wasn't trying to run a parish budget. He wasn't the parish treasurer. That was Judas. And he didn't do too well, really, in the big scheme of things. So that gives us a sense of where we're at. Okay. Just if we just chop and dice and so on. Other income. So the op shop to the end of May had contributed $34,000 to the parish. And yesterday it was 400 odd, just in a couple of hours of crazy trading. So it goes, again, the op shop goes up and down from week to week and day to day. Yesterday was apparently what Lynn and Anne were telling me was a crazy day. So compared to budget, it's about 3,000 behind, but we expect that by the end of the year it'll probably be on budget, which is roughly, we expect about close to 190,000 or something, I think, from the op shop over the year. Like that. Not getting any flicker of, yeah, okay. Other donations, so far this year, we'd budgeted for 7,000 in other donations, we've received 15,000. So we're overachieving, and that's okay. That's paid for some of the things like the carpet or this or some of the other painting jobs that have been done around the place. Okay? And doesn't this look great? Except it shows all the food scraps, but nonetheless, never mind. We just had to be quicker at getting the carpet sweeper out. Mission giving, we had a target of about 2,000 and we've had 2,400. This is money, this is just this year, 5 months this year. That's money to ABM, Christmas Bowl, whatever that's happened in this 5 months. Okay. Funeral fees. We're behind budget, but you don't need to fix that. Okay. So we thought that by the end of May we would have had $7,500 in funeral fees. We've only had $5,750. So that's perfectly fine. Actually, and then of course in the last couple of weeks the funerals have gone crazy. So I suspect we're probably back on budget, as it were. All right. We've also drawn money down from the trust funds to pay for particular things which are eligible. So the kitchen, we still had a bit of finishing off on the kitchen renovation sort of works. So 5,000 came out of trust funds. 15,000, that's mostly carpet, because it was like 12,000 or something, wasn't it, the carpet? Yep. So that's all this work that's happening. We also carpeted, I think that's the carpeting the parish office. I'm not 100% sure what that is. Just some maintenance stuff on the organ. Stay tuned, there's about $140,000, $125,000 bill coming on the organ, but that's next year. So it's nothing to worry about. This price is basically all this gear, which because we can use in any of the rooms here. If we've got a big meeting on in the hunt hall, we just wheel it next door. So instead of having it attached to the wall, we can move this around. We won't trundle it across to the cathedral for funerals because it'll get damaged if we keep dragging it backwards and forwards. But if we might end up getting one of these to use in the cathedral at funerals when people want a PowerPoint or whatever, it's going to set us back $3,000 to $4,000 to do that. So we haven't rushed at that one, funnily enough. Children and Families Ministry, over the course of the year, will be mostly, the main cost we're going to have is the stipend for Roz, and there'll be a little bit for materials and so on. So that really just represents May and June stipends, I think. Okay. Our share of that will be about 52,000 or something like that over a 12-month period. And then All Saints at Lawrence, we've spent close to $16,000 out there this year. And that was redoing the plumbing, the downpipes and so on, and then complete repaint of the outside of the church. That was funded by some money they had left in their trust fund from the sale of some land, plus a grant, heritage grant from the Clarence Valley Council of about $5,000. And so I think the All Saints Trust Fund is probably now close to zip, would be my guess. Okay. New income sources. Okay, so now that we've got the place in much better shape, if we even had one booking a week for 48 weeks of a year, assuming there'll be some weeks if it's not going to happen, that would generate $12,000 of income for the parish. Okay, so that's not going to. It's going to take us a few years to catch up with all the money we've spent on the place, but actually in the meantime we're enjoying much better facilities, so that's fine. But that's not to be sneezed at. Okay, that's like the offerings have gone up by $250 a week. Okay, just by renting out, leasing out the place. Again, the other little thing which has emerged in the last few weeks, 4 or 5 weeks now. Now that the kitchen's finished, the space is lovely for catering. The cathedral catering group has come back to life and sprung into action. And again, this has been very modest. Let's say, well, one funeral a fortnight. Now we're doing, as in one funeral a fortnight that wants catering at the cathedral instead of going to the Grafton Services Club or whatever. Well, thank you. So even if we only had one funeral a fortnight that asked for the cathedral catering to be going, that would generate another $6,000. So there's $18,000 of money being generated from renting out the whole spaces and by doing the sort of cathedral catering group. And even I think last Friday night we made about $1,000 profit, didn't we, from the caterer a week ago. So yeah, that's probably, again, that's possibly a little bit conservative, which is great. All right. There are many ways to skin a cat, and my cat doesn't like me saying that, but there are many different ways of finding the money we need. Of course, we continue to apply for grants for specific projects, and as you know, and we mentioned shortly, we've got an $85,000 grant towards the next bit of the roof. Gifts for special projects, so when it's time to start doing the work on the organ, we'll be very happy to accept gifts for people who want to say, I'd like to give some money to that. Okay. Obviously, if we grow, and if we are growing, and if we continue to grow in our membership and our participation, I mean, part of what we're trying to do is not only increase the numbers of people, but also increase the engagement of the people we have, so they're more involved and they're more supportive of what we're doing. So anything that increases our membership in either of those ways is going to have a flow-on effect. More people in church kicking in money, or same people coming more often, kicking in money, whatever, is going to help. And of course, there's always the option of increasing offerings per person. That also makes a difference. Okay, so although we're running, what do we say, a couple of $1,000s behind budget at the moment, we've got plenty of scope to make it up, which is great. Okay. We're actually doing, the parish of Grafton is doing incredibly well given the obvious challenges of trying to run a traditional Anglican parish in Grafton at this point in its history. We're doing remarkably well, so it's not a doom and gloom kind of presentation. And bequests. Don't die without a note. Of course, as we know, most of our trust funds are there because people have been very generous and have left us money in their will. Okay? So that gives us the money to do the big projects. So that's also an option. We'd rather have live people, but we're also happy to have bequests as well. Okay, so let's pause there for a moment. Just any questions? We have Alex here, but any questions about how the finances are going? That was our focus during June, was to have people thinking about stewardship and how we respond to the challenges of making this place work. Yeah, and it is. I'm recording it as I give it. Yes. So what you're seeing up there will be on the website later today. So someone who's not here today can still click on the thing and watch it. Yeah. Okay, because this is about just getting the information out there. Yeah. Like this is, well, it's our parish, but actually it's your parish. Yeah. I'm just the temp who's here for a few years, and I have a contribution to make. But this is our project, and we want this. When I leave in 3 years' time, we want there to be a lineup of people who want to come and serve at the cathedral in Grafton.
I think we all know me now.
In fact, Rose, if you come and stand here, then the camera can see you.
Oh, joy o' bliss.
Just anywhere there should be fine. You can't see it, but it can see
There
you.
we go, okay. Hi, camera. So, yeah, I've had a couple of months to settle in now, feeling a lot more comfortable and feeling as though I've caught up with my legs a little bit. And I would just like to say thank you to everyone for your very, very warm welcome. I think sometimes we can just underestimate those little things like, how are you going? And it's lovely to have you here. And I've received a lot of that. So that has very much made me feel part of this lovely cathedral community. So speaking of community, this is nothing like Grafton. Clearly we have a rather mixed bunch here when it comes to the racial profile. So we have a very different community in Grafton, although we do certainly have a fair number of Aboriginal people in town. I guess they're our largest contribution to the multiracial angle of things, and that's certainly something that I will be wanting to do, is to try and work a lot more with, especially with the Aboriginal kids, because it's children, it's families, and it's youth. I mean, as Greg has said to me, and I guess to you, I mean, the children and the families thing is already here in the sense that we get baptisms happening, so we can tap into children and families that way, if through no other means. Obviously there will be other ways of doing it, but the youth side of things we don't see, well, I'm not seeing in the cathedral at all so far in 2 months. So please tell me if I'm wrong, that they're suddenly going to leap out of the woodwork, but they're not going to. So I want to put some fairly heavy constructive time into looking at how we, as a cathedral community, can tap into working with younger people. That's going to be a big challenge, and at the moment what I'm trying to do is to get out of our environs here and start talking to other agencies around town so we can maybe do some joint stuff. And in a way, I guess that's me cheating, looking at the possibility of piggybacking on some other things that are already happening, so we can start to get a little bit of a profile outside of ourselves here, because we don't have young people within our current parish community. So they're there, and I am very open to anyone who's got creative ideas. I want to think outside the box. I would like you all to think outside the box. If you have any good ideas, feel very free to either tap me on the shoulder or give me a ring, drop me an email. You've got my contact details. It's in the pew bulletin. I'm often here in the cottage where Greg is. So we need to talk as much as we can, because I don't have all the bright ideas and I really want to tap into yours. So if you've got them, please share them. This has just started up, a bit of a joint project. I think Greg just gave a quick mention of it this morning. So it's out there. If your hands up if you're on Facebook. Okay, not even half of us. But if you are on Facebook, this is, I put up a post, Greg's put up a post. Is there a link on the website, cathedral website?
Yes.
So you can get to it, and that's going to be a resource for families, mostly. But yeah, brand spanking new as of 2 days ago. So we're hoping to get some resources out there to families and families with young children.
That's a joint project with
Yes.
Ballina and Lismore and Grafton. We figured we'd start out by working with 3 parishes where the clergy like each other and get on. It's a good start. And then slowly broaden it out so that it can involve more people from the diocese. But get it up and started and running.
Yes. and not my bright idea at all, so I can take no credit for it whatsoever. This is Greg and some other people, but obviously I'm going to be a part of this. And a new, brand spanking new kids space. I think this picture's going up on the website now. And I guess some of us might be going, futile attempt, Roz. We have no little children, and that's okay. For a start, if nothing else, this just says to people who come into the cathedral that, you know what, we're ready for little people if they do come, and that they are in our thinking. And because I'm here most days of the week, I have been staggered at how many people have come in. Yes, Camelia?
I did a baptism a couple of weekends ago on a Saturday, and there was a whole tribe of little kids, and they went straight into that space. They absolutely loved it, and in no time they were sitting down at the chairs, they were drawing away. It absolutely attracted them.
Great. I mean, I tried to make it look friendly. And we actually, that little table, we now have 4 of those, the other 3 in the baptistry, for if we ever do get sort of more young ones that we need the space for. But this is also like if you have grandkiddies, you know, bring them to church occasionally, there's a spot for them to be. And that's why you'll see me now on Sundays sitting up the back here. And I realised this morning I need a cushion because the pews are cold, unlike the chairs that you all were on. And my little bony bottom, a bit chilly. But I will be up there so that way also if any other people come in who maybe don't know the cathedral, if they've got young ones with them, I can straight away say, do you want to leave your little ones with me? We can do stuff here while the parents just relax and get on with enjoying the service. So, yeah. Bring your grandkiddies. And that's probably all I'm going to say. That's more than enough.
Sure. The next slide is CBAS.
Yep, leave that one.
Unless you want to say something about your role with CBAS?
Oh, yes, okay. At the school, obviously, we've got the Little East campus across the road here and the bigger kids over at Clorenza. Half my time is acting as school chaplain. So I take regular chapel services weekly across here, once a fortnight up at Clorenza, plus I'm also doing the Christian Studies classes at Clorenza. So that's going to be a really great, I mean, it's been quite challenging, obviously, young ones. They do like to test new teachers, and I have been tested. But we're getting over that hump, which is really good. And so now I'm getting yelled at across the grounds, hey, Chappie, Roz! And we talk about shooting, and that impresses some of them, and fishing, and that impresses some of them, and football, and, you know. So, yeah, we're well and truly starting to get there with the kids. So hopefully that will have some spin-off effects as far as the parish goes. Thank you very much.
All right. Any questions or comments for Roz? Yeah, that's right.
Ah, yes.
I did choose that photo deliberately.
Now, lovely little red hair.
All right, so as Roz said, she's been here since the 1st of May in this role, so this is very early days, but this is part of a more proactive engagement between the cathedral and the school. The other thing in terms of the school is that Catherine Lenfer has now been added to the school council as well. So as well as me being there, Catherine is now a member of the school council, which is sitting up around 9 members at the moment. So we've got quite a good chunk of people serving in that way. All right. Let's move on to this is focusing more on the compassionate Grafton side of things. At the beginning of the month, we did a session on the data about Grafton, and the previous month Estelle Graham was here and talked about Anglicare and also talked about affordability of housing and homelessness and so on. So I just wanted a quick update, a chance for you to ask questions about things to do with the more, if you like, our compassionate presence in the wider community. So the first thing, this is taking us way back to March, to the prayer vigil on the Monday night after the Christ Church shooting. So it seems like a lifetime ago, and in some ways it's good that seems a long way behind us. But that's one aspect of the cathedral being a cathedral for Grafton and being a place. And I mean, people are still surprised that we leave the cathedral open during the day. But it's actually, as we all know, people around town, even if they don't come to church on Sunday, a lot of people come through the cathedral during the week. And it is a place that they appreciate and that they look after. So it has, generally speaking, we don't have any trouble with vandalism or theft or things like that. And there is something about the symbolism of the open doors and the risk that involves. Okay, unless we take risk, unless we are open to the community, we're just going to be isolated and separated from them. One of the flow-ons from the events back in March was that a few community groups, including the Chamber of Commerce and a few other groups, have been looking at ways to really promote social harmony and inclusion across Grafton and indeed the whole sort of valley. This was one of the things at the beginning of this month. They put out this statement which a number of people signed. So Chris Galaptas signed it, Bishop Murray signed it, I've signed it, as of Kevin Hogan and various other people. And the idea was simply to get people standing up and saying, we are an open and inclusive, a tolerant and a beautiful place to live. And just try and build up the positive talk around the Clarets. I haven't heard the outcomes of the council meeting earlier this week, but one of the possibilities that might come out of the report from the General Manager to council was that if the council does decide to have any kind of a memorial for the Christ Church victims, it might take the form of what's called a peace pole, which is simply a piece of wood, either four-sided or six-sided, about so high, and you see some examples there. And there's about 250,000 of these around the world. They actually started in Japan a decade or two after the bombing of Hiroshima, and they always have, in different languages, "May peace prevail on earth." And we may be asked by the council to host a peace pole somewhere in the cathedral gardens. And interestingly, when that came up, the General Manager said, if it's at the cathedral, it won't get vandalised. Interesting. I can't guarantee that for them, but that was the perception, that if it's at the cathedral, people in Grafton will respect it and not vandalise it. So anyway, I haven't heard what happened at council last Tuesday, but I'll follow up with Ashley tomorrow. Camelia, you've got some stuff about another aspect. As we've thought about the material from the beginning of the month and the month before with Estelle Graham, one of the things that seemed to be emerging was the issue of loneliness and social isolation. And so Camelia might want to say a word now about that, and then I think we flow on to the heritage stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, we looked at the.
So if you can come over to where, if you stand here, not right up against the table, because then you'll just get your belly button on the TV screen. Okay.
So when St. Patrick evangelised Ireland in the 5th century, he established Christian communities. The believers spread the gospel through storytelling, prayer, and help for people's needs and engaging people in conversation. Offering conversation is hospitality in words. So this is what we're hoping to do. Hospitality is a posture of the heart. You can carry it with you wherever you go. It's doing what you can to make other people comfortable, especially people you haven't previously met or who are new to a group. If we show hospitality to strangers, by so doing, some people have shown hospitality to angels. We read in Hebrews 13, verse 2. When we reach out to people, we minister to Christ in a special way. Jesus said, I was a stranger and you invited me in, etc. Sometimes people may come into a conversation group who have confrontational issues. And sometimes we can find that empathic people are the ones who usually avoid that. But there's another side to this personality. They are the best people to talk to people in trouble because they listen with a broken heart. So if you feel you can't meet people that you don't know and can't converse with people that you don't know, we can give you the skills to do that because you are the best person who can listen to them with a broken heart, and you can help. And to be a good listener, you give people a precious gift of being listened to. So there's a way of doing this with conversation and food. So we're suggesting to have some sort of food outreach. I know the cathedral did this some years ago with the Sacred Grounds little cafe that they ran. We can do something like that with just simple soup and toast, perhaps one day a week, and just sit and see who comes and be prepared to listen. We don't have to do a lot of talking. The big thing is listening with your heart to what the other person says. So that's about it. We want to gather a few people who are interested in doing this type of ministry, which means cooking a simple pumpkin soup or something similar in the winter time with toast, nothing fancy, no big 3-course meals, just something nourishing. And then in the summertime, perhaps a frittata with salad. And I have a beautiful veggie garden and can grow all the salads. So it's over to you. We need another little catering group who are prepared to cook up soup on a shared basis once a week. If we've got 6 or 8 people, it means that you may only cook soup once a month or once every second month. Up to you. So we'll talk about heritage. We've recently completed the replacing of the baptistry roof. We received a grant for this of $95,300, and we used the money on a dollar for dollar basis. We got $45,000 from the government, and we paid the rest out of our parish funds. And you can see how beautiful the roof is now. And that made a big difference to the brickwork inside, and it has now stopped the brickwork from getting damaged by water. We have the similar problem with the chapel. As you can see, the chapel is on the far side of the cathedral. This is a little drone flyover photograph. And to our surprise, we found that half of the roof is made out of galvanised iron. And it's no wonder we've got leaks coming into the cathedral, because there's a big crack where the building joins, where the chapel joins the cathedral wall, and the water is just soaking and soaking and soaking for the last 150 or 60 years and damaging the brickwork inside. So the Chapel of the Epiphany, as I said, showing long-term damage. That's a photograph inside. You can see the white parts on the brick. That means that those bricks are being seriously damaged by water. The water soaks into the bricks, it dries up, the salts that are in the bricks and the mortar leach out, and the little fragments of brick part company with each other, and the bricks begin to corrode. As you can see, there's a flyover, there's galvanised iron, and in past times somebody has had a go at repairing those guttering cracks by putting fiberglass along. It's the white patches you can see there, and of course that didn't work because it just cracked again. So what we will need to do is redesign the box gutters, have higher flashings on the box gutters, do them all in copper and attach them firmly to the walls of the cathedral and the chapel, and prevent the water from sitting there, making sure it's got a really quick way of getting away. Ooh. The cottages, also, they're fairly substantial buildings. They're in reasonable solid condition, but they do need a lot of repair. We need to replace the roofs on both of them. We need to do work on the veranda floors on both of them. The bricks were laid on sand instead of being laid on concrete, and of course they've become very unstable over the years. So that will happen, and also some of the timber work in the veranda roofs and the structure needs to be replaced. This is a project which will cost us all up close to $150,000. We've put it on hold after we've finished the chapel and the north transept, which will cost us about $210,000. We will look at doing the chapel work. the cottages. The chapel will cost us, as I said, about 210,000. We've received a grant from the government of 85,000, so we have to find the rest of the money to do that. We hope to finish the chapel by 2020.
Okay. All right. So sorry. Yes.
I would like to say that when we think about doing a new project, it is very, very important for everyone to realise that it's a project for a long time. You can't. We have a minister come and he's here for about 10 years or so, and something starts in his vintage. A good example of this is the creche that was operating in the hall. They spent enormous amount of money on equipment and gear. They fenced all the way around the back of the hall, and then when there's a change of minister or venue or something, the thing lapses because it's not done anymore, and all that effort and cost is wasted. It's like youth work in the cathedral. I was involved with youth work for 20 years in the cathedral, and when the vintage of I left the affair, it waned for 2 ministers' periods, which was approximately 20 years. There was no youth work done in the cathedral, and therefore the effort that has to be made now to pull that back into a very small commitment in youth work will require an enormous amount of work. I built the op shop in 95, and hopefully that as the time goes on and the older people get old and disappear, there will be new people coming in to do that work. And same with the bookshop. So if you decide to do something, it's not a 5-minute job, it's a long-term thing. And if Roz works hard with the youth and gets the youth back, well, she'll need a lot of work to instigate that work, and then she may leave, and then there has to be infrastructure there to continue. And same with Greg when he goes. He's a little bit of a bright light in the cathedral at the moment, but whatever is done, there has to be a backup, and the new minister must accept those things that are instigated in that era to continue into the next era.
Thanks. Now I want to go to something entirely different. I want to take you to the roof of the world. And if I had this turned on, that would have worked. So, I want you to come with me to Nepal. I don't physically mean come with me to Nepal. I don't think my lungs would cope for a moment climbing up to that altitude. I used to run up Mount Sinai, but I think I'd be hard-pressed to walk up Mount Sinai these days. One of the people that I got to know when I was in Jerusalem for a while was this gentleman here, Prem. And he's an Anglican priest from Nepal. Not the place you'd normally think of, there being an Anglican priest. And lovely guy. he's been converted from a background. His family upbringing was of course Buddhist. He became a Christian when he was a teenager, about 17 years of age. He's been off to study at Singapore. We were able to give him a scholarship to come to Jerusalem. So there he is in the blue. Sorry, it doesn't show up on this. But anyway, that's Prem there in one of the sixth station on the Via Dolorosa in the old city. And he and I have stayed in touch over the years since I've come back to Australia, and he's gone back to Nepal. He was describing how he would walk for 4 days to get to his second church, his equivalent of Copmanhurst. Okay, he would walk for 4 days through the mountains of Nepal, like over the roof of the world. Okay, when he got there, there'd be 1,200 people waiting for him to say Eucharist, just like me going out to Lawrence or coming to Grafton. Yeah, they just pack them in. But you can see that, and you go, wow, in Nepal, like, really? So that, and they call their particular parish is called Living Hope Church. But you can see they've found something in their experience of church which is giving them hope and a sense of community and a sense of a purpose and identity. And they have virtually nothing. And of course, this was, when he came to St George's College in Jerusalem, it was just a couple of years after the massive earthquake in Nepal. In fact, he'd had to reschedule his time because of the earthquake. So we've sort of stayed in touch. We are Facebook friends, so every now and then I get a message from him. There's his wife next to him and their children. And so one of the things I've said to him is that, well, let's just form a kind of a partnership between little old Grafton Parish and this Anglican church in Nepal. And we're not, and I've said, we're not a rich American church. We're not going to give you bags of money, but we can pray for each other every week. So every week, their church is going to pray for Grafton, for the cathedral. And what I'd like us to do every Sunday in our regular intercessions is to pray for this guy and his church community in Nepal. And as we pray for each other and share stories from time to time, we'll probably find some things we can do to help them out. But it is just about building an intentional friendship with a bunch of Anglicans in Nepal, where I've never been. I had no intention of ever going to Nepal. Thank you very much. That could be famous last words, I guess, but it's not my hope to ever get to Nepal. But I am delighted. I mean, as we go through our life, we meet people. We collect friends and people that we've met, and they've been a blessing to us. And I guess meeting Prem, seeing what a difference it made to him to actually travel around the Holy Land and these places he'd been reading about in the Bible, to go there. And I was just last week, I said, you know, he's always asking, how am I, how's my health, whatever. And I mean, we spent maybe 10 days together, and it's part of a group. It wasn't like it was just he and I. But his comment to me was, you taught me so much. Okay, my ministry has been transformed. Of course I care about you. That's the kind of friendships we form, isn't it? And we do that here in Grafton. You get to know people, you share some experience with them. It may not even be a pleasant experience, but you share some time of grief or whatever with them. You go through some event and you're bonded. Okay? And that's part of what a Christian community is. So starting next Sunday, what I would like to do is in the intercessions each week, we'll just pray for the Living Hope Church in Nepal. And occasionally I'll get a little update, a news item from them of what's happening or whatever. That's all the things that we have organised for the session. Are there any other matters that people just want to raise before we move into the lunch part of the program? Sure. Well, the big thing that seemed to be coming across, given that, I mean, if you look at the overall demographics of Grafton, remember, we're pretty normal demographics in terms of New South Wales and Australia up to the end of high school. So there's no significant variations there. we don't have 3 times as many kids or half as many kids. Pretty normal age distribution. But from 20 to 45, Grafton and the whole Clarence Valley has a significantly lower number of people. Now, so apart from the fact that Anglican churches are doing badly anyway with young parents, in Grafton we're also doing badly because that's the missing demographic. You know, there's about half the number of people in that age group as you would expect to have in a community of 50,000 people. So there are much fewer people in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, and the ones that are not in town are the ones that grew up here and have gone somewhere else for study or work. So that's the group we've lost. Some of them have been replaced by other people coming in to work here, but generally speaking, we've lost a lot of local Grafton talent that have gone somewhere else. But from 50, well, they have done in the past. Are they still doing it?
I don't know that,
Yeah.
but I know they have done in the past.
At the moment, 50% of our population is 50 years and older, and that's twice the average for New South Wales. So yes, we are certainly an area where there are many more older people than, whereas it's a reverse for the 20 through to 50. We've got half of what you'd expect to have. So what comes out of that is that the 50 plus age group is where you're more likely to have people living alone after divorce or after death and various other circumstances. So we're thinking that social isolation and loneliness is going to be one of the points where we could make a contribution. And that's what the proposal Camellia was talking about. If we had lunch with friends one day a week, and it wasn't a soup kitchen, but it is a chance for people to come, not because they can't afford to eat at home, but because it's lonely to have every meal at home. And if we could start proactively building friendship circles, that's one of the ways that we can meet the need of that demographic. It's not the only need, but it's about the only one that has emerged so far. Okay? So it's an ongoing process. I mean, I think, of course we've got challenges, we know that, but we've got challenges partly because our community has challenges. And what we've got is that we've got each other and we've got our faith and we have a passion to make a difference. And so we'll find the ways where we can do that. And so take hope. I think some really good things are happening.